Welcome, Lizzie Nation. Thank you very much for today for attending Tea with Lizzie. We really appreciate you making this special time to be with us on our morning broadcast on Tea with Lizzie, both on Facebook Live, both on your YouTube channel, and then please, we appreciate you following us on LinkedIn, on YouTube channel as well, being subscribing to our YouTube channel, going through all the extreme to support us on Twitter, going through all the extreme to be with us on Instagram. We've started seeing some people following us on those platforms on TikTok. We are very appreciative of what you are doing, ladies and gentlemen, and we thank you very much for doing that. It's a very cold morning here in the Free State, as we are now dealing with the cold front that will be coming either from Cape Town or from Lesotho in this case. So you have to be well prepared, as I am in this case, whereby I have to make sure that by all means, 19 cases have they are starting now to go to with the issues of cold, or it's winter. Winter is now entering its full might, so we might find ourselves having some flu symptoms, and then that must not deter us in terms of making sure that we adhere to the rules and regulation of the government that are set by the government. And let us be appreciative of our government, because our government is a government that listens, is a government that cares, is the government that always incorporates us in their decision. With that being said, let us thank the president for extending, together with the National Coronavirus Command Council, for extending, or the National Disaster Management Team for extending their hand to the faith-based churches or faith-based organization to say, we've heard your plea, and then we are giving you a leeway in alert level, alert lockdown level 3, to say you can still practice your spiritual awareness in terms of the condition that are set by the NCCC, which says only a congregate of 50 people will be allowed, which I think happened before. So it is now just the implementation of that. So we thank the president, we thank the NCCC, the National Disaster Management Team, for doing that and the incorporation thereof. Although we must take in cognizance, Zwelim Kize, he has reiterated that we will start to see the peak or the number of people being infected. And then he is saying if a mass testing was rolled out for all the provinces, we'll have seen the 15,000 cases that are happening in the Cape Town, we'll have seen them. We'll have likely seen them in other provinces as well. So what does it mean? It means we have not yet reached the peak. But to date, I have not yet seen someone that comes and explain this, to say this is what it means. This is what it means. We need analysts to come in and do this. But I guess for COVID-19, we do not have an expert analyst yet. I think it's something Dr. Karim, they don't know. They're dealing with something that they've never dealt with before. So, but we must be appreciative of the constant information that we are getting from our government. They are very affluent in that. They are very what we call them. They are very frequent in doing that. They are very efficient in terms of delivering that, giving us as the public and taking us under their confidence. That is what we want. A government that cares about its citizens. So we really think that we thank the president for calling the meeting yesterday to assure the faith-based organization that your interest, we have it at heart. I remember last week when he announced lockdown level 3 on day 62. We are on day 62 today. I think everyone has lost the count of the days as well. I'm saying I remember last week when the Honorable Member of Parliament, Mr. Kenneth Mwishwe, came in and said, no, we must incorporate, he should have incorporated the churches. So I think he has done that. So we must hear the opinion from Mr. Kenneth Mwishwe. In this regard, he was calling as a referee and a player because he went AWOL when COVID-19 was hitting us. He went AWOL with other people and then on the church. So I think he must come back and say he's appreciative of what the president has done in this regard. So thank you very much for being here with us. Then I'm very grateful for you guys being following us. You've been following us for long now. We are now on day 62. I think we are on episode number 38 today. Yeah, so we are on episode number 38 on this program. Let me apologize again for our lunch with Lizzo, to say we will not be able to do our lunch with Lizzo because we are busy with another project that is on a site that has a technical glitch or does not have a technical or does not have a tower. So it's a small holding that we are busy preparing in approach to the essential services, which is that one of beef production and meat production for the goats and the beef as well in this regard. But we'll do some plantation, we'll do some crop as well in that regard. So I apologize on that, but I think it will take us 2 weeks in order for us to finish that project, that site. So whenever we get the opportunity, we'll come. But if we do not, then you'll have to bear with us for lunch with Lisa in that regard. So thank you very much, and then thank you for supporting all our programs, ladies and gentlemen. Our topic today is in line with what the Minister of Higher Education has declared to say he wants the people to finish their 2020 academic year, which the students. Yes, I agree with the minister. But we said every Wednesday when we come on Facebook Live, when we come on the YouTube channel, we'll share our story because we've been through that path. We know what happens exactly at your your university or your higher education centers or your higher education facilities, and it's very concerning. But that is what has shaped me in order to become what I am today. So I'm very grateful for that because in my language or in the vernacular that I've used, they always say "Pokojwe hopila edirezana." So it means for a hyena to live or for a jackals to live, it must have the tricks. So that is what we had. That is what I had to pull at university. It was not easy. Remember, as I said, there was no lesson that I've learned. I was the first person at home to attend university. So the struggles that come up with university, I didn't know, I didn't anticipate. And then even when I got to university, not knowing what exactly is expected of me. Yes, you might be doing very well from your high school, you might be getting the good grades, but when you get at varsity, especially when you are in the technical sciences or you are in engineering, you tend to have issues in terms of what is it that is expected of you. You still have your maths, you still have your physical science that are there. You have stresses of university, of attending class, you have stresses of accommodation as well. And then what happens if you have applied late, or what happens if you applied in time, but due to the criteria that the university has used, you are forced now to board at a private accommodation. And then what happens if that private accommodation is in some odd area? Because there's a time where I had to live in an odd area, an area that is known to be a dangerous area. But what came first was the goal. What is the goal that I want to achieve? So when I started at the now University of Johannesburg, I started at a private residence in Western. In Western, there's a lake there. where I think in the 1980s there was a big bus accident that happened in that lake in West Dean. And of recent in West Dean, we've heard of a case where there were people that raped the ladies in the same lake. It's a case that is 2018. Yeah, it was of 2018 in the same lake, but that was a long time after we have finalized with our. There was a private residence that was rented out to us, and then we had a lineage friend of us. Abraham Kitika was one of the guy. Dries Tapala was one of the guy that we were staying with. There was a guy called Relax. Yeah, there was a guy from Limpopo that was named Relax, and we had a guy. I had a guy that was Washington Tinyane that I stayed with as well in that case. I was sharing a room with, so we're sharing rooms in that regard. Yeah, it was a good accommodation, very affordable. But the intention was that if you finish your first quarter, going to the second quarter, there will be an opportunity that is open at the university, and then you can go and stay in a university dorm, which is what they subsequently happened in that regard as well. Depending whether you have made it very well in your studies. So that was one of the cases that was an acceptable standard. You have to have good grades in order for you to qualify, because they know that in your stream or in your line of study, there might be people that will drop out as well. So you are depending on the lack of people that had an opportunity to stay at a residence and had to drop out as well in that regard. And then in engineering, like I said yesterday, the first quarter you'll have people, at the end of the first quarter you'll have people that are dropping out because the subject is very difficult for them. They cannot cope with the amount of time that this requires from them, because at the university it's unfortunate, you have to push yourself. If you don't push yourself, no one is going to push you. So you have to be independent in terms of you doing your own thing, pushing forward, asking relevant questions, attending all the lectures. That is what you have to do in that case. So that is what we did. And then I stayed in that residence, I think, for 6 months, in a private residence. And then ultimately I had to move into the dorm, university dorm, where I was not sharing. I was having my single room. And yeah, that is what happens. But my starting point in terms of discussing this is because, there's a difference when you are in a private dorm and then you are in a university dorm. So the problem is, in a private, the landlord there does not care. The landlord there, they just want their money. Let's look at the issues of the COVID-19 pandemic. I've had parents in my street that are saying, you know what, we have rooms that are reserved for our children that are at higher education, and then yet the landlord is calling us to tell us that we need to pay, because yes, our kids are home now, but we still need to pay for their accommodation, which I think in some case I've shared the rent relief for businesses that are affected by COVID-19 and they are not operating and they're still expected. I've even last week said your Massmart, your Walmart, your companies like Macro, your companies like your Game, they are asking for rent relief because they are saying they are only allowed to sell essential stuff. And then the rent for them leasing those areas are becoming expensive now. So those are the things that we need to look at, because once the student go back, the landlord will still require them to pay the amount of the time they've stayed at home. Is that fair? Is that fair to the parents? It is not fair to the parents. Get that and reassure the parents, because I know the parents in the street, they've already paid as per the landlord request to say they must pay half a rent for that month or for that 2 months that the children have stayed at home. So let us correct those mistakes. So in a private accommodation, you tend to have a lot of things. You tend to have there's no accommodation committee in that regard. You are controlling yourself. If someone next to your next room is making noise, you have no authority to tell them what to do. So it always encouraged us, or it always encouraged me when I want to study and then had a cool mind. I always had to go to university, which was a walkable distance, because when you are in university, you just pass your University of Johannesburg Stadium, and then there are it's both your athletics and rugby stadium, and then you go to the university. It's about 5 minutes walk, or let's say 10 minutes walk to be safe. And then you are entering from there. You'll be entering from the south side. That is what you'll be entering from. So that is what happened. And then what happened again is with the private accommodation, it's kind of it gives you that leverage to come in and out as you please. But I think the comfort is with the university dorm, because there's security, there's access that you have to have in order for you to enter a certain residency. You will not have anyone loitering in that area because they feel like loitering. No, you have people that will be accompanied by someone that stays in that residence, and they'll only get permission in order for them to be in that residence. I think for control issues, that is right. There are other people. If you look at there's a report that was released by some SRC guys from University of the Witwatersrand to say an accommodation is becoming a critical issue that the government need to look at, especially your Department of Higher Education. They need to look at the university accommodation, because that is important. Everyone must be accommodated. But a lot of landlords, I'm also intending to do that. A lot of landlords, they are looking at using this opportunity to build the residents that are of standard. And then with those residents, they list them at the university so that they can comply with what the university requirements are. And then they become assessed, or they become inspected on a yearly basis to say, are they meeting the criteria? So I'll tell you about a case study that we have done. In fact, when I was still a student at during my third year, there's a case study that we have done with a private residency that was not used by a certain school. And then we went there and we did a proposal to the school, and then the school ended up making a lot of money, because they had 105 rooms that were heavy, and each room we were sharing, and it was 750 per person in one room. So if you look for a month, 105 rooms, they were making 157,000 in that particular month. So that school was making 157,500. I think during the time of 2003, that school was making a lucrative amount of money. And then in a year, they will look at 1.89 million. That is what they were making. And then the easy and the fun part of the school was their wife was working at the NEFSA's office. So, and then on the second year, I think when they took this forward, on the second year, this is what the school decided. They decided that we are going to still list this out to the student of the University of Johannesburg, but we want it to be on a certain discipline. We want it to be on the engineering discipline. So they approached the Department of they had the Department of Engineering at the university that comes and study engineering. We are having a space reserved for them in our accommodation. So the dean of engineering then decided that for all the students that are not having accommodation at the university dorm, they will be taken to that institution. Just imagine, with engineering, this school was getting the 1.8 million at the beginning of every year. That is what they were getting at the beginning of every year, because the university students that were studying engineering, their sponsorship will want to pay accommodation for the whole year once and for all. The three guys, it was Richard Mabelo, Leslie Mahole, and then me. We approached this school in a dangerous neighborhood. I must just mention, you get accommodation as well in the dangerous neighborhood. This dangerous neighborhood is Westbury. In Westbury, there's a school called Westbury Secondary School. So this school, history says, they had a boarding school at the school. So Westbury had a boarding school at the school. The boarding school was deserted. No students or no learners were staying in that boarding school, because what the kids were doing is they were using it to do their things that are illegal, their things that has to do with a lot of things in terms of intimacy. That is what they were using it for. So a lot of children were born, or the girls were falling pregnant during. We realized when we approached the principal, and they said, well, what is it that we are praying? Because he had to call the SGP. So we had to do our proposal, proposing that in all these 105 rooms, this is what we are promising you. We can fill this room by the end of this week, Friday. And they didn't believe us. They were thinking we were playing a joke. The end of the 150 students that were interested in going to stay at Westbury, the school was deserted, but it had everything that has to do with boarding school. They had beds, they had the showers with hot water, they had your kitchen. You know how a dormitory will work in a school. So that is what they had. The school also had they had their private transport, their taxi. Westbury Secondary School had the taxi. So what we proposed to them was, this is what we want, because Westbury is a dangerous area. So we want you to assure us when we bring the student here, they will be safe. So this is how the student will be safe. We will bring those students here, but what is it that as a school you will do, as an SGB, what is it that you will do in order for us to be protected? They had to say, we will provide you with security 24 hours. We will provide you with lunch in the morning. So we'll provide you with breakfast. In fact, we will provide you with breakfast. Sorry, not lunch. We'll provide you with breakfast. A drop-off, we'll have a pickup time, we'll have a drop-off time at the university. That is what we are putting on the table as the school as well. And then from that, we'll have a pickup time at the late. So our pickup time was 5 o'clock till 6 o'clock. Our drop-off time was 7 o'clock until 9 o'clock. That was the drop-off time in the morning for the morning classes. So that is what the proposal was put on the table. And then from that, what happened? From that, this is what will happen. We will also give you dinner. We'll also give you the provision for dinner. But you know, in every institution, especially a school, when they want to cut or when they want to save the cost, what they will do, they will start to now compromise on what? They will start now to compromise on the quality of the food. This is what has happened as well, where students started to say, no, we are not going to eat at the lunch because certain thing they are not preparing it the right way, certain thing they are preparing it the right way. So now there was another new twist, because now you're introducing what the risk of the student now cooking from the comfort of their own rooms, which is not safe. But if you look at the condition of the school, because they have done away with the boarding school, so it means they are no longer they were no longer cooking. So they had to call all their old cooks to come in, compromise on the quality as well. In line with that, they didn't take those cook and give them the good nutrition plan for the student as well, because it was not. I think it was something that they had to add in. It was an add-in that they felt that they can pick anyone to come and do the cooking. So you can see that is where I went. So that is the accommodation. The frustrating thing about accommodation is people never knew. But for me, this is first time I'm doing it. I'm saying it. For me, Prales and Richard, we never paid our rent because all our rent money, it was part of the deal that we discussed. See, when we discussed a deal on accommodation, we said, if you're going to stay here for 2 years, so let us be certain we are going to be in this place for 2 years and we will not be paying. We will be paying zero rent. And that is what we did. We paid zero rent. So all the money that we were getting from our sponsorship, it was the money that we had to save. We had to save that money because you'll never know what tomorrow will bring. We'll never know. We never knew that today we'll have COVID-19. So if you do not save, then it becomes a problem. But that is the negotiation skill that we had to come up with. The reason why I'm mentioning this is, as I've mentioned, some SRC personnel at University of the Witwatersrand came up with something that I think people didn't believe. I had to go through the same thing. In 2018, this student confessed that some of the students at the University of the Witwatersrand, they sleep on the toilets. Let me repeat that again. Some students at Wits University, they sleep on the toilets. I had to do it as well, but we are not outspoken as the person that is that was doing this, that was claiming this from the SRC of the University of the Witwatersrand, to sleep for a week in a toilet. And when the security comes in there and he found you there, then you know what will happen. So that is what we have to the library. There were times where people will sleep in any place where, when I was doing the night studies, we used to go to level 7 at University of Johannesburg. Then Rand Afrikaans University will go at level 7 because securities, when they do patrols, they don't patrol on level 7. So we'll be there. I think a group of 5 people. We know we do not have residence, but you cannot tell your friend that you do not have a residence. You are waiting for you to be placed and all of that. So those are the things that was happening and is still happening today, because the cost of accommodation, especially on private, has become so exorbitant. It's so expensive. So what do you do? Do you take your issue of accommodation and you quit your studies because of accommodation? I had guys that quitted their studies because of their accommodation issues. They will not dare to sleep in a toilet. They will not dare to sleep in a corridor or in a boardroom or study room. They will not dare do that. There were guys that will quit because their companies didn't give them money for food. Remember, if you do something, or if something is written down and you've signed on it, it's a contract, you've signed on it. No matter how long they are going to take to pay you, but at the end of the day, they will pay you. At the end of the day, they will give you that money for accommodation. At the end of the day, they will give you that money for the books, even if the books will be late. That is the headache. The headache is you get there, you do not have books to study, but you don't just quit. You don't just say, no, I give up. These people must be the one that are begging me. No, you must be the one that is persistent. You must be the one that is seeking information. Guys, why are you not paying my accommodation on time? Why are you not paying? Why are you not giving me my stipend for the books on time? I'm already a quarter away and I didn't have books. So I decided that if I don't get books, then I will quit. They will see that they are not grooming a leader. They are grooming someone that wants things to be done for them. Always when you think out of the box, you tend to meet the right people when you think out of the box. I remember on my second year, there are books that I didn't have. And there was this guy that was called in the University of the Peak University, Potchefstroom University, University of the Potchefstroom. So he had a lot of books. When you go to him, he had a lot of books. He will lend you a book. Mampuru Rampuru had a lot of books with him. So he will lend you the book. And when you ask nice, he'll even give you the book, especially when you're expecting that subject, but you are lacking the study material. So he'll give you that book. So it depends. What is it that you are doing? Are you doing it? And then are you attracting the right people, the people that will say nothing by giving him this book? Because with Mampuru, he had both science, and then he was doing engineering as well in mechanical. So you'll make sure that because during your sports management those days, he was sponsored by Absa Bank. He was getting about 2,500 allowance every month. He was in the same. Brian Habana did sports management as well. So he was in line with. They were sponsored by Absa Bank, which was giving them a good allowance every month. Although for us, we are getting close to 600 allowance every month in order for us to keep on. But they were getting 2.5 on sports management, and he was getting as well from his sponsorship, which was Sasol at the time. So he had a lot of books, and then he will share with you any book. He'll borrow you a book, and then you have to return it. So that is what you do. You associate with the good people as well in this regard. In your private accommodation, you can have miracles that are happening. I remember, if we are all first years, this is what can happen. You can have in your group, if you are 6 and you are doing engineering, you can have a chef that comes out of that group. I remember we had sent 3 guys to go at the next franchise, which was Spa. That was just 5 minutes away, 5 minutes walk, and then we send these guys to go and do some groceries so that we can double. Guys now a director in a big organization. He went into there. He went in there and he purchased because we use staple food. He purchased staple food, some rice, and then he came in and then he bought some meat. And then when he cooked this meat, he was suspecting, now why is the meat not ripening? Why is the meat taking so long? Not knowing that he had bought dog moss, so we are going to eat our meal with the dog moss. So I always remind him of that even today, to say, Kitika, my friend, we'll never send you to a shop to buy meat. You'll make us eat the dog moss. So those are the things that we are faced with. But the dangerous accommodation that I've seen, especially when you have to maneuver your way. Remember, the transport that was taking us from Westbury was only from, it was dropping us 7 to 9, and then from that 5 to 7, they will pick us up. And then when you want to go back and study, this is the disadvantage about those accommodation that are private. You cannot study in that accommodation. When you study in that accommodation, although we started developing in a cafeteria, we started developing a plan to say in the afternoon we'll have people that will go and study in the cafeteria. Yeah, it worked, but when you have people dozing next to you, it does not give you that comfort that you'll finish that during that time. So I had to go to university, so we'll have to walk from Westbury to University of Johannesburg. It's about 15 minutes walk. So you walk during the night, you come back 2 o'clock in the morning. You are praying. You must pray very hard because but we had to maneuver. We had to pray, and then we are where we are because of those dungeons we are where we are today because of those risks we took. I took the risk in order for me to stay at Westbury. And then I stayed in Westbury for a year. So I took a risk for a year to go up and down in that regard as well, in that location that is known as Westbury. So there's a whole lot of things that has to deal with accommodation, the struggles of accommodation. I stayed, there's a place where I stayed for a month. It was in your Brixton as well. That place, the only thing that made Ziyanda there is working now for SAPC. He's a producer at the SAPC, very good guy. I shared that room with him. And then one day when we came back from university, we found that our room was buckled upon. So they took everything that we had. So we had to start from scratch. So we had to buy new clothing because remember, boys will be boys. The only thing that you have in your room will be your clothes. Ingu will go at the house. So that is what you'll have for in order for you to sleep very well. Yeah, we never had a lot of things. But for him, he just purchased a new clothing, so they stole everything. He just purchased the new sneakers, they stole everything. For me, I purchased, I think it was a jean, they stole everything as well. So the only things that I was left with was the book, were the books. So, which is what I went there for. I didn't go there for fashion. I only went there for the brains to grow in order for me to be able to be where I am. So I'm very thankful for those. So those accommodation have shown you can go from a comfort to a non-comfort accommodation. You can go for a temporary accommodation. You can go for a steady accommodation as well, or a longevity as well in that regard. So it all depends. And then remember, when you stay in a university dorm, and then you are repeating a year, they are not allowed by law to give you a space. Space is only for people that will do their term from first year to fourth year, and then you are out. If you have to repeat your fourth year, then the space is no longer there for you. So they allow your accommodation to be from first year to fourth year, and then if you are doing your masters, then they will allow. If you are doing your, say, I have accommodation for the rest of my study years, even to stay. Because if you go at the university, a university will have the first year accommodation, you'll have how they categorize it as well in that regard. So, but I think private residence is the one that will show you, and then it will make you someone because yeah, you have made it now. One there was one accommodation that I stayed in. This I didn't mention. Let me mention it. There's this white lady that stayed in it. It was in your Melville. I stayed in Melville as well for 3 months. Yeah, I stayed in Melville. In my career, I've stayed in Melville for 3 months as well. There's this lady, we call her Tandeka. She's a white lady. Tandeka, she stayed with us there. So she was singing Mango Groove, the Mango Groove singer. So we're in the same street with her, but it was a private residence, very nice, very security wise. I stayed there for 3 months, but the price there was very exorbitant. It was, Melville during that time. It's very expensive. I didn't want to go to the Auckland Park site because I was thinking Brixton site. I was thinking Brixton, Auckland Park is a no-go area. So I rather reserve the West Dean and then the Melville side of it in order for me to be safe and then my staff to also be okay. Because in those areas you can walk at night, no one will endanger you or will not no one will possess any danger to you when you are walking. So you can walk 12 o'clock, it's cool, it's nice. Yeah, and then there are security, private securities that are patrolling the area as well. So those are the kind of areas that you want to stay in. So it sharpens you because you need to know what is it that I'm looking at. It's the same because when you go to the work environment, the same happens. You need to have a space. But for us, as boys, you get the space while you are moving. You cannot be deterred by the space, or you cannot be deterred by accommodation. I remember when I started with Sakidem last week, we came in there, we have no zip accommodation. Even during my university studies, when I will go for an in-service training, or when I go for the holidays training at Mgeni Water, in Durban, being it in Maritzburg, I will go there with zeal, no accommodation arrangements. I will arrange accommodation while I'm on site working. So, and then I will get accommodation. I remember when I went to Durban in my first year in Durban, I went in December. I didn't have an accommodation. I was taken by the security guy. He took me, and then I was saying, "Hey, for real, this guy is taking me." Yes, he took me. And then you know where I slept? I slept in a hostel. In a hostel, there's a one room is shared by 8 guys. Then they said, "Oh, mthatha phi lo mfana lo?" So, and then they will have to learn their names and they'll have to give. But what you must be thankful of is you must be thankful that you had a pillow, you had someone that took you to the place of comfort, and then you enjoyed it there. And then tomorrow when you wake up with a fresh mind, and then you started teaching. And then in another case, when I came again for December, service technician there, the student just went on a holiday. It was on a board into his space in that regard as well. Every time I'll go to them and I'll lodge at the HR practitioner's house. So you develop those things. Their friendship, you can develop friendship from accommodation issues. You can develop friendship from your school issues. So anything that comes as a barrier, you can develop it and create something out of it. You do not have to be stuck. People that get stuck are people they're out of thinking. They cannot think out of the box. They are only self-centered. People that get stuck are self-centered. If it does not work for me, then it will not work for everyone. So those people are self-centered. If it works for him, if that old timer that took me to the hostel, if it works for him, if he can stay in a hostel, I can stay in a hostel. So first year, when I started working, I did the same thing. There was Samson Masuku at Mgeni Water. Samson Masuku said, "Guys, I have accommodation. I have a house.
It's 5 hours.
I have a room that I'm not using. Can you come and use this room?" Then we went in there, and then the room was very spacious. And then we chose that room till we get to know what is it, what is this challenge that we are faced with. And then after 2 months, then we had to move out to our own place of comfort. So that is what you do. You do not get stuck by saying, "I'm not going to this residence. There are things that I don't like." Even if there are things that I don't like, you must swallow your pride. Beggars can be choosers until you are now at the comfort. So after 3 months, when we saw that, okay, our salary, we can sustain ourselves, then we went and then we rented our own places individually now. We are sharing that room, but we're individually now. We rented our own places. So I had a room and Sakila had his room. And then after a certain period, I said, "Sakila, with the kind of salary I'm getting, I'm intending to move out to a suburb. I'm going to Scottsville." And then I went and lived in Scottsville. And then Sakile followed suit. He came and lived in Scottsville again. And then after a certain time, I said, "You know what? Let me go and live in a upmarket place." So I went and lived in an upmarket space. So I left him in Scottsville. So that is what you do in life. So you say, "Okay, is this comfortable for me? Is this comfortable?" Then I have to bring my wife. Then he brought his wife as well. So that is what we were doing. So then my wife was still my girlfriend. So I had to bring my girlfriend. The institution, the other guys are doing it every at the residence. I know a friend of mine, yes, 2 friends of mine have been cohabiting while they're still studying. So, but the fortunate part is that they've married the ladies that they were cohabiting with. Sifyalande, with Rachel from university, Richard Mabelo with his wife as well. So They were cohabiting as well at the university. So you still get fat and sad at the university, even in the accommodation situation as well. So those are the things. So I'm proud of my friends. Two of them, they've been cohabiting. They've done very well. They're still staying. They started cohabiting at the university. They were breaking the laws of the university by bringing their partners into the door. So yeah, so those are the things that you get in that case. So yes, Mr. Tutuntama, yeah, Zulus, that is how they are. They used to call me Umfano Msoto, not knowing that I'm a Xhosa by, but the wife was speaking and expressing myself in Sesotho. Yeah, umthatha Umfano Msoto. So thank you guys. Those are the challenges, but we cannot be deterred by the challenges. So I'm saying to the guys that will go back to university, that will be able to afford our families. Let us not put our parents at the pressures of the world by saying we demand more from them. Already the National Student Fund is doing well for us. They have taken some of us at university to be, to university, they were getting it was mentioned as the university does not want you anymore. You have failed. You have extended your stay at university. We've had guys that were doing that, and they were still giving their going to university to stay in a student center to impress their friends at the cost of their parents. So let us not do that mistake. It is a big mistake. It's a mistake when our parents can discover it can. Some parents can die because remember, our parents, we are the bride of our parents. If you go to university and you don't do what is expected of you, that is a problem. You must go there for the intended reasons because your parents, as I said, you are the person that is going to. Let us please bear in mind that our backgrounds are not the same. Let us not go to university to impress people, whereas we know where we are coming from. So there's this thing they call black tax. Black tax is there. Black tax, it means if your parents are staying in an RDP house, you have to make sure that you are giving them a comfortable house. You will get lessons from that. You must make sure that, not to say I'm advocating to people how they must live their life, but that is what I'm saying. You can rush the things of the world where you can get everything that you want, a vehicle you get in order for you to be able to do your job, if it is as per your job description. If I'm an engineer, I do not have a car, I cannot go and do the inspections. I cannot be borrowing the company car, whereas I have a car allowance. So there are circumstances that will lead you to some other aspects as well. So let us make sure that we come and resolve our parents, take them out of the situation they are. To say we are very thankful for the life that I've been through, and then you've made it possible as my mother, as my father, and then this is what I thank you for doing. And then we can see the blessings will come from there. And nothing will be stuck in your road to success as well. I like the province where I grew up in, or where I did my work in, especially KwaZulu Natal. In KwaZulu Natal, everyone that works, they start at home. You are a lady, you are for the ladies. The ladies, they always build their homestead before they can even go into marriage. They always look for their grandma, their parents. They make sure that their parents are all settled in, and then they can go and then do whatever they want to do outside after they finish at home first. So there are a lot of examples that I have for people that have went through that route. So I think that is why I'm saying I'm very thankful of that province, because it made me realize I need to go back home. I need to build a house. Yes, my parents got an RDP house, but I need to go and say, this is what I'm doing for you. I'm very thankful for what you have done for me. And then from that, I got a lot of blessings. So with that being said, let us go to the institution, go back and then do what we are there for. Let us make our parents proud, irrespective of the struggles that we'll get. Sometimes You do not even when you are old, don't go and tell your parents, this is what I had to sleep in a study or in a lecture room. I had to sleep at my friends. I had to sleep. So you do not have to tell. Those are the struggles that are only in line with you. Don't fall prey to the things of the world. So that is what I'm that will be my advice for today. And then I thank you for joining us for today. And please subscribe on our channel, on our Facebook Live, and then bear with us in whatever glitches that we are having. And then let us support the president in his call for the national lockdown, especially when we are approaching alert lockdown level 3. Let us make sure that we are washing our hands for at least 20 seconds with water and soap, or we use an alcohol-based sanitizer. We must always, by all times, when we cough into our elbow or a tissue. Let us avoid crowded areas, hence the 50 for funerals number, and hence the 50 now for churches in terms of attending, and with the strict adherence to the social distancing of 2 meters or 1.5 meters that will be set by every organization that will be opening, any church that will be opening. And then, as we can see, it's practice in all the departments. Social distancing issue must be there in the shops or your retail space. The social distancing must be there. Let us always, by all means, listen to the good news from reliable sources. We cannot deal with fake news. Fake news can cause havoc. We don't want fake news. So when we see fake news, we discard it. When we see information that can be sensitive, we check its contents first. We cannot just publish. We must check the contents of that as well in that regard. And then let us always, by all means, make sure that when we have a cough or we have a sore throat, yes, we are approaching now the winter season, let us consult with the medical practitioners. And before we do that, we must call them. By all means, let us not be stressed by the COVID-19. Let us connect with our friends. Let us do something that we wanted to do for a long time. And then we have now the opportunity to do what we wanted to do for a long time. Let us do that. Let us adhere and then be good citizens to South Africa and its citizens as well. So with that being said, I thank you very much until we meet again tomorrow. God bless.